I'm Suzy Wright and I am a textile artist and painter. So this is my exhibition Bird of Paradise, and I've got the whole process from the paintings into the stitch. So here we've got like a difference of the beetles, and I work kind of small and big. If I'm doing a huge piece, I like to kind of take a break and do the smaller ones in between, because the large pieces take about 3 months, sometimes longer. If we go to this one is my self-portrait, which is really up to date. It was only finished a few weeks ago, and it's the biggest one I've done to date. It's very, very thick with stitch, and I start the process with dressmaking fabric calico, like a medium weight, and I just layer all the threads, and I do dark to light until I get the right blending tones, and until the piece of art pops out from the background. So I've got a mixture of portraits and people, and also nature as well. And the idea is that the ladies that I have stitched and painted are inspired by nature and the natural world. And I just wanted to highlight the colour and the brightness of nature, and like all the natural like colours you can actually get without having to dye or, you know, expose it in a different way. So it's as natural as you can get, and I'm very proud of it. But it's the biggest collection I think I've done, and it's about 3 years in the making, and it's lovely that it's all finally up on the walls for everyone to see. So I learnt the technique at school, so when I was like 13, and I had a really brilliant teacher. I was really not academic at all. I was very, very bad at all maths and science and English, and she saw something in my work right at the beginning, and she kind of took me under her arm and brought me into like the textile world. And I didn't know what textiles was, I had no clue about anything, and she kind of like showed me the books and showed me like different techniques, and literally from then I kind of just started drawing. And then she got me on a sewing machine. I don't like the sound of a sewing machine. I always wear like big headphones because I don't like, it's too loud. And she got me on the machine and taught me how to draw with a needle, and literally since then that was kind of it. I just kind of took off and never looked back. I've done lots of different internships, and I did fashion design at uni at Westminster, but I've always just wanted to go back to my painting and my stitching. That's what I'm happiest doing, and that's what I like to show. So yeah, it was kind of all down to her really.
How about the scale of your work? Because you've got some very small pieces. At what point did you decide that I'm going to go big?
So I started with small pieces just because I was just getting into everything again, because I had like a small break in between doing fashion and going back to it. And it just kind of got bigger and bigger, and I just kind of decided that I wanted to, the next step was bigger. It was just what I needed to do next. There wasn't like, oh, let's move on to it. It was just kind of like, oh, I'm going to do these pineapples, I think it was. And then I thought, oh, I'm going to do a coloured background, and it's kind of just developed. I don't really think too much into it. If my mind wants to go that way, I just do it. And then like any problems I have on the way, like when they get bigger and bigger, obviously it gets a lot more complicated, because I only use like a small Viking Husqvarna, like an old one, so I find it quite difficult when I've got a huge piece of fabric to try and work with it. So I just kind of figure out the boundaries, but it's just exciting to see how I go.
Initially, when you look at the threads, you think it looks like metallic threads.
I used metallic thread, and I felt like I was cheating because I didn't want to. The whole idea is I try and blend the colours so they look that way. So I got rid of all of that, and I literally just work with polyester and a cotton blend. I use Gutermann because it's a huge colour mix, and I also use Coates Moon, and it's quite good quality, and I just pick which ones I need, and yeah, and that's kind of how I do it really. But yeah, those are the two brands that I always go back to.
And is it just a basic straight stitch feed dogs down?
Yeah, so it's an open toe foot, and I put it right down to 0, so it's free machining. A lot of machines say they do drawing stitch, but they still have that push, but the machine I use is like very old, and it's very basic, and that's because I'm literally just using the machine as a tool, like a paintbrush or a pencil. I don't know like the technical abilities of it, I literally just use it as a tool. My partner's the one that fixes the machines and sorts the machines out and knows like the complexities of them. I literally just use them as like a canvas, you know. So that's always how I work, and I don't use a hoop, I don't use anything. I literally just have my piece of calico. It's literally just like painting. So I really don't like to stretch the fabric. I like the fabric to do what it wants to do. If it buckles, if it shrinks, I like that. The same with the threads. And at the end, when I frame them, I like to keep some of the threads on, and I like to have the fabric ripple and distort as much as possible, because it's highlighting those two factors, which I think are really important to my work. And without those two, I wouldn't have any work. So I like to really highlight that. This was like the big one. So I've got my Harrogate show coming up, and I've got my Instagram and things like that. But I just work to see. I just live for my work. So I just do one step at a time and see what comes from that, and then go from there. And that's kind of what I do. I literally just live for my art, so I never really have the next thing. This was the big thing, so I'm taking a breather and then do the next one in a month, and then see where I go from there, I think. So thank you so much for seeing my exhibition and my show and having a little look around. I hope you really enjoyed it and you have a lovely day at the show.